Like I said, we have an incredible panel here today. We're going to go through some different things. We'll first start off with, I'm going to actually let each one of them kind of introduce themselves a little more detailed than just who they are. So if you would, please, Rune.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, so I'm Rune Fisker. I'm SVP of Product Strategy at 3Shape. So years ago, the first employee at 3Shape, and I'm basically responsible for understanding the customer, for understanding our products, and then decide what our 625 developers are ultimately doing, of course, together with many other good people. So it's great fun. I know many of you are 3Shape users, so thank you so much for that.
Awesome. I'm Anton Wolf. I'm the CEO of Argen. I was born into the business about 47 years ago, so I've been working longer than you in the dental industry. So super excited to have this amazing panel, and somehow they got me to be with this far more impressive group, so I'm going to talk the least hopefully today. But thank you for being here, for supporting Argen, and for just everything you do for the dental community. So I'm super excited to be here.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Caruso. I'm co-president and owner of Ottawa Dental Lab with my brother, Luke Caruso. We have 8 locations spread out through Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin, and we have about just under 400 employees across the 3 states.
And I'm Chris Waldrop with Burdett Dental Lab in Birmingham, Alabama. We're a 3rd-generation family-owned business. We're full service, and I'm glad to be here with really a very distinctive panel here. I appreciate the invite and look forward to the conversation. So,
awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, the flow is going to happen is we're.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob Woosley, Vice President, Oral Arts Dental Lab in Huntsville, Alabama. Little bitty lab. We got about 400 people, something like that. But I'm just glad to be. Like I said, I don't know how I got to do this piece of it, to be the one to keep everything moderated, but I'll do my best. Usually I'm on the panel, not the moderator, so we'll work it out. We're going to go through each one, and each one, as we know, is an expert more in different stuff, and we'll go on each one of those and they'll explain about what they're doing. And we'll also do some Q&A at the end. And I also want to open with some questions about kind of where everybody is and who's here and all that. So let's go ahead and start with some of the questions, being how many technicians do we currently have that are technicians? Just show of hands. Owners? Awesome. And then managers or supervisors? Awesome. All right. So we got a good crowd. Mm-hmm. Some more questions. How many of you plan to increase your staff in 2024? Again, show of hands. Increase your staff.
That's an interesting, quite interesting.
All right. How many of you plan to scale up 2024, either with a new product or existing products? Scale that product up.
yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry, yes. We're going down this year, sorry.
You can only get worse.
As long as sales isn't watching. Oh, gosh, okay.
So we're going to go through the questions. We're actually looking, our topics today are going to be controlling labor and overall cost, which we're going to have Jim speak to. And for Chris, we're going to have redundancy plans. Anton's going to talk about scaling. And Rune, of course, is going to talk about AI. So, kind of get this started. I've been told I'm kind of on a schedule, so we have to keep going. You only get so many minutes, then they're going to keep it monitored, so they'll be flashing at me, so I'll be like this.
Let's have a glass of wine before we start. Huh? Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Okay, I feel better.
Feel better? Awesome.
I didn't spill yet.
So I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's go ahead, Rune. We'll start with you. Let you go ahead and tell us all about AI.
Yeah, so I think you have all seen the amazing capabilities of ChatGPT, right? AI has been around for a while, but of course ChatGPT have set a complete new level of what we can expect of AI. And again, been saying this the whole week, if you haven't tried ChatGPT and it's like on a web page, log in, then you really need to do it, because it is mind-blowing what it can do. And what is it called, generative AI can do, where you will not just, recognizing languages or recognizing a car in a picture, but really can do generating, for instance, a crown. And so there's no doubt, and we have actually been investing in AI, And maybe just before we go into that, there's a lot of people claiming AI, right? But the real big difference on marketing AI and real AI is with real AI, you take a big training set of thousands or tens of thousands of voices or car driving or designs, crown designs, and you train it. You're not programming algorithms anymore. And that's what makes AI so disruptive compared to previously where you had to program algorithms for a long time. So if we look at what I think is actually the most impressive AI app in dental industry, and for sure on CAD/CAM, is our Automate Crown, which is 100% AI-driven crown, where you take a scan, gypsum model scan or intraoral scan, you upload it to the cloud, and within 90 seconds, you have a finished crown 100% designed by AI. And back to training, that's actually been trained on 250,000 designs, human high-quality designs. So when the next scan comes, it can, of course, design a crown. A lot of people talk about doing this. We have actually launched this 3 years ago, and we have done more than 2 million downloads now, and we do more than 100,000 cases, growing rapidly month over month. More than 100,000 cases every month currently I've done for the last half year. We have one US lab uploading more than 1,000 cases a day. So this is not a dream anymore. And if you come to some of the 3-shape lectures or my lectures, you will see more examples. We also now have trimming of designs. We have just launched for the automatic from the Auto Crown from 3-shape Automate. We launched interior designs, so you can do also that. We have launched automatic guide design on surgical guides. And there's basically real AI in almost all our software applications. So of course the question is, how far will this take us and what will happen? And honestly, when I speak to labs also this week, I sense a certain fear for this. And I don't think for me this is just the next level of digitalization. You remember, and we also discussed that, some of you might remember we did inside-out crowns and gypsum models 10, 15 years ago, right? It took 10 to 15 minutes to scan a gypsum model and do an inside-out coping, not crown, inside-out coping, right? Yeah. And mill it in zirconia. And now that takes a few minutes. And of course, so this is just the next step of digitalization. But there is no doubt that this is, first of all, it's unavoidable. And secondly, I think it's a big opportunity. We'll get to that later, but there's global shortage of technicians. We see the big labs, especially, I mean, now Jim Glidewell was just lecturing, right? He has been his own AI crown, own AI service, and replicate and running that only on his own thousands of crowns every day, right? So it's also about making you competitive. And of course, labs come, now we see the big labs up here, but if you're a smaller lab, you also need to be competitive. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity, and you will see it develop a lot over the next years. I got a question yesterday or 2 days ago. So can we do partial frameworks? That's quite complex, right? Yes, we will also be able to do partial frameworks. Maybe not 100%, but then we do it 90%, and then you finish the last 10%. So there's no doubt that this will radically change how we design. But if you remember all the rest of the progress, for me it's just the next step of digitalization. And I certainly don't think you should be afraid of it, and I think you should truly embrace it. And I have to say that, I mean, I really, really think that you should aggressively adapt digitalization if you're not already doing that. And a part of that is to really get going on AI and use the tools, use the latest software versions, so you have all the AI tools in there. Because all your colleagues will do it, and honestly, you're going to be more profitable. You are not having labor shortage. And it will take you to the next level. So don't be afraid. Get started, and also please play with ChatGPT. It's really mainly there will be a big impact on CAD, but also, for instance, voice recognition and taking the phone and so on. It's getting really, really good automatically. There's also marketing AI really, really moving, and then on the clinic side, you see a lot of AI, especially on X-rays and so on. But for a lab, I mean, really the low-hanging, and where you see the massive impact is on the CAD, where it will significantly accelerate the CAD design to the next level. Don't be afraid. Adapt it now and get started on it. And try, by the way, ChatGPT. So that's the short introduction.
Any of you have
You
anything
use
else then?
ChatGPT?
I use it often. So we use it a lot for our HR department, our finance team. We're always dropping things in ChatGPT, writing out if we're doing new job descriptions. It's really cool. You can throw it in there, and in a matter of like 3 minutes, you have the job description. And one thing I found out just a couple weeks ago that's even better, if it writes it and you maybe don't really like it, most important thing is to tell ChatGPT who you want ChatGPT to be. So when we start ours now, we say, hey, you're a human resource manager, you have 15 years of service, you graduated from Harvard, and then you click the button and it completely looks different and makes it really smart. So obviously when I use it for like email, I'm like, you're just a normal person, make some mistakes, that way they'll know that it maybe came from me. But really, I mean, the tool of being able to tell ChatGPT who you want them to be is adding people in your business, right? You might have 5 different types of levels in HR. You can now program 5 different ChatGPT employees. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's also, we use it for doing process documentation too. So you can literally put a little bit of information related to a manufacturing process, particularly a lot of the legacy things that we've done, and it'll give you an incredibly beneficial framework to start to build out the processes that you have internally in your own businesses. So it's incredible. Continuing to grow, become more accurate, and I think to Jim's point, I mean, if you don't like the first option, just tell it what you want a little differently, and it'll give you more detail or something more defined. So.
And I think in the future, you're always going to look at, like, say, for HR, you need an HR person, but the other core part that you need is you're going to be looking for someone that knows how to use AI. Because if you're hiring good HR and they're not using AI, you're getting 1 employee instead of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Very good. I just learned something.
You just learned something. Right?
Actually, there's a whole new education about chat prompting, how you prompt your AI best possible to get the best results. Also, I can say what we're working most on in TreeShape, and actually, if you look at graphs from McKinsey and so on, that's actually on software programming. Just like writing job ads, AI or ChatGPT can actually also draft programs for you, which means that there are savings on programming on 30 to 40%, or you can develop 30 to 40% more. So it's going to impact across the board, and we are still in the early days. There's also a lot of hype, I have to say. But there's also a tremendous amount of opportunities out there, and I think we all need to look out to it. And then maybe last comment from me on that topic is also, I think you need to, yes, you can sit with ChatGPT. I mean, you cannot get your lab to do AI on CAD or do AI on your CAM software. There you need to tell your suppliers, why are you not automating more? Why are you not? Why do I still nest in the software? Why do I still have to take so long design time on Dentures or whoever your suppliers, your phone system? Why do I have to have people taking the phone? Why are you not giving me offers on chat, as an AI answering machines, and so on and so on. So the thing is also you need to push your suppliers to deliver AI tools for you, because you cannot invent it all yourself. Yes, you can use the core things in ChatGPT, but many other things need to be brought to you by suppliers. No.
Awesome.
I agree. I think AI is, we look at AI in dental because that's what we're familiar with and close to, but AI is coming everywhere.
Yeah, so.
And I think you kind of mentioned just on software development, the cost to develop 5 years ago and the cost to develop now is significantly faster and less expensive. So looking into AI, reading books, listening to podcasts, just as business people, not only as dental people, just as business people, how we function is going to change in the next 5 years, and it's going to be for the better, right? So I'm very excited about what AI will bring.
Awesome. We're going to go to the next one. We're going to go to Jim. We're going to talk actually about controlling labor and overall cost savings.
Yeah.
Give us your
kind of our take on that. So obviously there's a labor issue that we're all facing. It's probably the number one thing you hear when you ask, how's your lab doing? It's like, it's doing great, but I can't find anyone. It was really during COVID that this kind of came as an important part of our company, and we call it employee execution. So what we do is we measure execution, meaning how much of that employee's time or that technician's time is doing tasks that we're able to bill our customers for. And when we started bringing everyone back from COVID, I was just walking around because we didn't have a whole lot to do. And what I really noticed is a lot of our technicians, our top technicians, our supervisors, our managers, they're all doing some work, but then they're also doing a lot of administrative stuff. They're passing out work. They're the only one that are capable to quality control. Quality control you don't get to bill anyone for that. You don't get to bill anyone for passing out work. So we're like, okay, we have a labor shortage of good technicians, right? All right, what if we can gain 20% of all of their time back by removing anything they do that we can't bill for? So that's where the execution part came. So if you go into our lab now, we used to have, the denture manager, and they would QC, they would take phone calls, they would pass out work. Now all of our managers have an administrative person or even an administrative manager that runs it. A lot of our departments are now ran by non-technical people. We have customer service in each department now, because I'm sure a lot of you call for due dates or, hey, you forgot the shade. There is nothing technical about that. Yeah. Anybody can make that phone call. And the beauty is, if you call the doctor, you're going to be on the phone for 15 minutes because you're going to have to BS with them. If Susie, who they don't know, calls, it's a 1-minute phone call and they get off and everyone's back to work. So what we really found is just by really focusing on this time that's available, we've now just increased the capacity that we have. The people that are technical really love technical stuff. They usually don't love admin, so they're just more happy with being able to do what they do. We've been able to bring in a lot of really smart, administrative people that's what they excel at. So they're doing more than probably the previous person was able to do, just because that's what they're trained and that's what they went to school for, things of that nature. And overall, it just ended up, as we came back with COVID, we were able to add about 15% of our growth without adding a single employee. And that was strictly just because our people were doing what they should be doing. And we even then kind of dummy it down, because a lot of people think, how do you fix labor? You ask people to do more, you reduce their wages, right? Those are the common things. But also, another thing we look at is we now have every task in our lab. We have 5 levels of technicians, 1 through 5. You start as 1 if you're off the street, and every task in our lab has a maximum level. So if you're doing this task, the maximum level is a level 2. No level 3s, 4s, or 5s can do that task. So now you're giving the level 3, 4, and 5 work that you're getting more money for. So now they're earning you money. The level 1s and 2s are learning and doing a lot of the prep stuff. This, all very important stuff, but it takes just as long to do a model as it might do to do a zirconia crown or even layer a crown. You get $20 for a model, you get 100 and whatever for a layered crown. Same amount of time, you better make sure the right people are working on those 2 cases. Otherwise, you're just giving your profit away. And we've acquired a lot of labs. I go into labs. There's people that are multitasking. 1 minute they're doing a $40 an hour job. The next minute they're doing a $12, $15 an hour job. So that 40, and you're probably paying them, whatever, 20, $35. But when you average all the work they're doing, you're probably getting a $20 employee. Even though they have the skill set to be much better than what they're doing, you're just not giving them the right work. So that's really how we look at it, is just how do we utilize our people. We're hiring more administrative people every day, and I know in the lab it's always looked at as oh, that's just dead cost. The more administrative people you have, the more people from outside the lab you have coming and looking in. Like our most recent hire, we got a new kid, he's an engineer out of Marquette, and he's strictly just looking at workflow. We don't want him to learn anything dental. It's just, how do we get the iOS scan uploaded the quickest? How do we move it to here? How do we get it to printing? How does printing get it out to there? So he's now just a liaison to all our managers to use to be able to, for them to be able to increase their productivity without adding people, without asking anybody to do anything more, just work smarter. And that's really how we focus on, our productivity goals.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. we have a process engineer who does all the stuff. It used to be all done by the technician and all the, like, they're like, no, his focus is to see, here's the process, here's the most efficiency, here's the best way we can do it, the cost. And it's amazing how fast he actually has learned dental.
Yeah.
I mean, he went in, I'm like, man, the curve, like, it takes usually years for people to kind of get it. I mean, he's been here a little over a year, and they're like, or almost 2 years now, and it's just amazing how it is. So it doesn't always have to be a technical person to do it, to be able to make a big impact on those costs.
Yeah, we call it resource allocation. So what we started to look at was very similar to Jim in terms of how our technicians were spending time. And we found that a lot of time was getting up and going and grabbing cases, and with the prioritization that they wanted instead of the priority in which we needed to meet our customers' demand. So we created a logistics position, and that enhanced productivity for our technical team because they're getting paid a lot higher wage to be able to have the technical expertise to do these jobs. And we brought in just above entry level to teach someone this logistics role. Now they distribute the cases, and the technicians could be more productive. And we create a priority system that helps us accomplish what our customers need in the right priority, as opposed to someone's personal needs being met. So,
Awesome. Anton, Brian?
Yeah, I think in our organization, we're probably spending a lot more time on retention with keeping our employees. San Diego happens to be a very difficult job market, so it's really just keeping our people that we have. And I think we have the same thing in our manufacturing, level 1, 2, and 3. For us, it's also about just giving people a path. So, people come 6 months in, I'd like to make this much money, and you're like, but you just started 6 months ago. So now there's a path forward, so they can see where they can go and where they can advance. The second thing that we did very successfully was we put together employee-based committees, and we call them culture committees. And we started off, because we were trying our best to make our employees happy. And we did what we think and we thought they wanted. And the more we did, the less happy they appeared to be, right? So we just kept trying and from our heart, like we want you to be happy, and we're trying, and wow, we just keep missing the mark. So we decided to create a social committee, which is a group of individuals in the lab, in our company, and their role, they get money for the year, and they put together all the social events for the year. Then we created a employee perks committee. They're looking at how can we get perks from things that they want. And now we have about 6 different committees, all made up of individuals who are just doing it on their own time, but are impacting the culture and doing things that people want. And every quarter, we do an employee net promoter score. So if anyone's been online or been to a store, how likely are you to recommend somebody work here? And if you go online, they say, don't do it for your employees. Because if they're having a bad day, like they're going to be like, this place is terrible, right? But we started it, and sure enough, we do it every quarter. And it doesn't tell you necessarily how great you're doing or how well you're doing, but it gives you a baseline for how you can try to see a trend and keep your finger on the pulse. Because we may think people are happy, but really just checking in with them every quarter has been very valuable to us. We also have a free form where people can fill out. And that is where the gems are. That's where the things are. So they fill out. And of course, the happy ones will say, yeah, it's great, everything's good. The ones who are unhappy will tell you exactly why they're unhappy. We go through, so we had a goal to be above 25% net promoter score, 25 net promoter score with 60% participation. That was a goal that we set for ourselves. And we go through all 270, 280 responses, and we start to put them into buckets on what we think can be effective. And then every quarter we say, here are the 2 things from you that we're going to work on. And then the next quarter we work on 2. And then they're like, oh, wait, people are listening. Like, we care. And it's significantly improved our retention in a very difficult market. So My wife put that together, so I take zero credit for it. But she's not here, so I'll take full credit for it.
100%.
No, and maybe I can take this to even as we're doing the same. So if I look at what we have done most successfully the last couple of years on the people side, is actually we use a system called Argen that is designed to survey employees. Of course, we are a different type of company. We are 2,200 people, a lot of tech, basically a tech company. But we survey all our staff with around 20 questions, where we both get an NPS score and a rating on a 1 to 10 scale, a 0 to 10 scale, on how happy people are. And the ask, then you have different categories, and there's also probabilities to look in. And that has really, really raised the improvements, the satisfaction, the engagement score, as it's called, or the Net Promoter Score. So we do that very systematically, and you see big differences between teams, right? And then of course it's all about addressing it and working with it. Besides that, so there's a similar. Besides that, what we very much believe in is actually very empowered teams. So for all our products, we have product teams that really own the product and really are empowered to go and make the best product possible they can for you, and of course also for other customers. And then we set back to the skill set is of course about putting the right people into that team. So you have software architect, a product manager, you have a bunch of developers, tester, UX people, and so on to do great products. So we don't scale them, but we do it indirectly, differently, in the same way, because we are building teams with the right capabilities, right? And again, different product needs very different teams. Some are much more mature and are less like cutting edge development, and others are really like, how do we render a complete new product, right? And that also requires different teams.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome.
How do you do retention? You have very high retention.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's we have a level system for people that they go through. So the day they start, they can see where they can get and how they can get there. The one issue we always ran into is, you have the overperformers, but they're moving at the same pace as the other ones. So our level system that we built to eliminate favoritism, it allows these people, every level you're in, you can also graduate that level in half the time, which then allows you to jump to the next level, which is a whole new pay level. So it really allows the people that are motivated to really go through. Another thing we found that worked really well, and we started it like 6 years ago, we have a big annual meeting, and at that point we undo all of our leadership goals to the entire company. Both on the financial side, to the labor cost, to the supply cost, to even, hey, we're going to build a new lab, we're going to do, X, Y, and Z, but now we have the whole lab and all the employees holding the leadership team accountable. Before we did that, we might have 8 goals, finish with 1, and nobody knew we didn't achieve the other 7, which was beautiful. But now we just get so much more done, right? Because we have the pressure on us. And then quarterly, we do a full company meeting where we get all 400 people together, or we go on outside locations as well and give an update on all our goals. We give, here's where we're doing good, here's where we need to work in. But I really think it allows everybody to feel part of the vision that you're setting out, instead of just your leadership team knowing your vision and everyone just working. This really brings teamwork, and like after the meetings, people be like, oh man, that's awesome, we dropped 1% on our supply costs. How did that happen? I mean, we'll tell them how it happened, but they're just actually excited about stuff they never used to be excited about. And I just think now they feel they have a bigger role in our company, even though it's the same position, but now they feel they're a bigger contributor. And we just continue to bring education to them as well, and we really push our technicians to become CE, so they see our value of bringing education to them. When we started this, I think we had like 10 CDTs. Now we just had our 35th one on our team, and I think only 3 of those people actually came to our company with a CDT. So we probably 95% of our employees, we're in a small town of 18,000. Out of the 220 that work in our Ottawa location, I think there's only 6 technicians that came with prior experience.
That's awesome. Good job.
We also do, we call it an all-team meeting. During COVID, my wife and I started to do like a video conference to the company, just to tell everyone we were still in business and everything was going to be okay.
Checks in the mail?
Yeah, or like every week we're like, this is what's happening, right? Because no one was at work, so it was a pretty scary time. And the feedback we got, people loved it. Yeah. So every month we actually do an all-team meeting to the entire company over video, and then I actually send it to our subsidiaries so that some of our, in Germany and the UK can watch it as well. And we just go through. Here are our goals for the year. We reiterate. Here's our mission. Here's our values. Here's who we are. Reiterate. And here are our quarterly goals, and here's how we did against them. And here's some fun facts. And it has completely changed how involved and engaged everyone is, and it's been huge. So just it's a great thing to remember.
Yeah, and I mean, we take time too to do some celebrating with the team. You know, in the fall we'll have a big fall fest where we have, enough raffle stuff that everybody that comes wins. Hundreds of people come. Have bounce houses for kids. Christmas, we'll do a big Christmas party. Santa, get gifts for every kid and grandkid in the whole company. Things that like that go a long way. Goes a lot further than, hey, great month, here's pizza. So I think they're all, we still do that stuff, don't get me wrong, but that's not really celebrating stuff, right? I mean, it's the things where you can, I think, bringing in their families as well. We're family owned and ran. We really try to get to know not only our employee, but what they are outside of our business. And I think even once the employees meet each other and meet their families, you see them start doing stuff together. But I think they just have more respect for each other the more they know about each other, which obviously just increases your culture.
That was one of the big takeaways as we've kind of gone through this process of running our company on EOS, is doing a people analyzer and judging against our core values. So before, a lot of times we would get in a rush to hire people and get them trained to fill positions, expand capacity, whatever the need was at the time. And now we're a little more structured in the way that we look at the people that we hire. And because of that, we have more like-minded people, right? So our culture is adapting. And when we have the right people in the right seats in our business, we are seeing retention improve, and we're seeing development, and it's a better place to work, right? The environment's, we're accomplishing goals. A lot like these guys, we started through the EOS system to do a state of the company every quarter, and we update against our goals. I think the transparency of that information and getting people connected with what you're trying to accomplish, it changes everything. It changes everything. It has for us. So we're pretty early on in this, but it's incredibly powerful. I highly recommend EOS. If you don't know about it, get a book called Traction and read it. It'll change the way you look at your company. So,
awesome. We're going to move on to our next topic. Talk about redundancy plans. Ways to create redundancy to ensure your laboratory, something happens where systems go down. How do you keep everything going and making sure that you're, have a redundancy plan in place?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
So it was really nice of Stephanie to say that I was an expert, and as all of you probably know, you become an expert by getting it wrong, right? So the reality for us is we understood that we needed backups. The more dependent we became on equipment, and all of our companies are becoming more dependent on equipment, whether it's scanners, design centers, printers, mills. We're at the mercy of that equipment being up and the uptime that it has. And so we built some redundancies in the very beginning. Most of them were internal, and then we began to see that if we had some kind of catastrophic failure, we needed an external redundancy as well. And so initially we built, and I'll tell you a story about 3D printing. As we've continued this journey in growing our ILS business, we have a greater need for model printing. And so we had 3 model printers at one time that were all running. We had a staggered shift, so we were running about 12 hours a day on model printing. And unfortunately, within 1 week, all 3 of those printers went down, and we had no capacity at all. So we had a redundancy, an external redundancy plan, and we had tested this redundancy multiple times, but not at scale. So we got ready to pull the trigger on this, and we had a first attempt fail, and I'm like, oh God. And so we attempted again and continued to work with this external provider for multiple days to try to get this rectified. Ultimately, we ended up spending 3 days trying to get the situation fixed and realized that the partner that we had could do it at very small volume, but could not do it at higher volume. So I'm going to give a plug to Anton and his team. I called Donnie Bridges, who I've known my whole adult life, and I said, Donnie, I hope you can help me here. I've got 700 models, I think it was, that needed to be printed. Can you guys do these, even if it's going to take multiple days? And he goes, let me make one phone call. He called, and he called me back, and he said, listen, send all of them. We're going to get them all done for you. So Anton pulled us out of the fire, and I really appreciate it. But it made us...
Only heard about it after, if I'm going to be honest. Cannot take credit for this one.
You haven't got a lot of credit. You can take that.
Yeah, take that credit while you can still
you're
get
right.
it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think the takeaway for us was not only having our internal redundancy that we needed, we try to run between 80 and 90% of capacity on equipment, but making sure that your external plan has been tested and tested at scale is a really, really important part of that. So it was a learning process for now. We've now documented this, and instead of trying to get this on the fly, we've got very detailed process on how we do that. So I would encourage everybody to, if you don't have that plan, create that plan. It'll take you a little while, but it'll save you a lot of heartache when you have the need.
Yeah, you're talking on that. I'll take it a little, looking at the employee side of redundancy. We've been caught in that before. With 8 locations, we've had it where we walk in and the server's down and we can't get into 3-shape, and we have 10 designers sitting there. So having a plan, how are we going to get these designs done? Whether it's going to be one of our other facilities that are able to do it, are we going to go to Automate, are we going to send it to a design company? Just making sure you have a plan for every situation that came. When this happened, we actually now kind of built a plan for what happens if each of our labs has a fire and burns down. You got to look at like worst case situation. How are we going to be able to do it? If some of them burn down, really easy. We can take it and put it into our Ottawa lab. What happens if the Ottawa lab burns down? There's no other, I mean, we can't spread it amongst even our own family. So I have it where, it can be, some's an outside manufacturer. I have had conversations with other bigger labs that would be able to support a certain percentage of it, or maybe a certain, fixed side and a removable side. But we actually have these plans now, so we know when they do it. And, we always focused on the work too, and we're kind of embarrassed to say this, but it wasn't too long ago our customer service, we had 7 people that answer the phones in our Ottawa location, and in one day 4 of them decided it would be good to take the day off. And on top of it, the head of the thing was on vacation, and we had absolutely no plan. And the girl runs into me and she's like, look at all these voicemails that are coming in, and there's nothing worse, nobody's answering the phones, this and that. I literally answered the phone all day. Which was really bad. I got oh, what are you doing? And then I was on the phone for way too long. So just what I said, us calling on the phones isn't a good thing. But now we literally have a plan. We've gone in and said, hey, if this happens, shipping, we're going to take one of your person. There's a removable person. Hey, we can teach you how to do the basics. So they've gone through a little bit of training just on how to dispatch calls. But it's little things like that in one day can lose you 1 or 2 customers. And we know how much if it's the wrong customer, it can be a huge value. So that's what we've worked on more now, is just how do we get out of bad situations. And with COVID, that's really where we all got tested, right? There goes those 10. And we have no plan, so it looks like I'm jumping in or so-and-so's jumping in. And again, we're not utilizing that employee utilization. If myself or a manager is answering phones all day, that's not the best cost per answer that we could be providing. So, and honestly, when we talk to people about, hey, you're going to be that utility people, they feel important. They're like, wow, they realize that I have more than just one skill set. And we let them train on that. And it really kind of brings it together. And, when we go tap on the denture manager's shoulder for that person, they're not up in arms because they know it's part of our plan.
Awesome. Ed?
Yeah, I'll just share on Chris. Why I think I don't take credit is that's part of our plan. That's what we've been trying to share with labs, is we are here to try and make you more successful. And whether that is selling you equipment or selling you the consumables or having a digital center for you to send it in, or to do both, our goal is to do whatever we can to help make you successful. So though we were saving you, so to say. That is part of our strategy, that when your machines go down and things don't go right, we want to be here for you. So what we learned, though, is, and we are talking to many of our customers, is it would be great if you get your settings dialed in. If you send us a few models on a weekly basis, a few zirconia crowns on a weekly basis. So, because the most challenging is when we get the call, and we're like, we got to send you our DME. So you have to redesign all of your units, or you have to redo or we can't receive it in that format. And now everyone's under stress, and we end up sometimes taking it and not doing as well as we can. So what we're encouraging people is part of your redundancy plan, if it is Argen or another place that you work with, continue to do it. I think what people do sometimes is they create a plan because they have a bad event, they put it in the drawer. 3 years later, something happens, and you're like, wow, we haven't sent anything to them for 3 years. We're not even using that material, right? So consider sending a portion of what you're doing on a regular, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. So if you're sending us 2 units a week and you send us 100 units, like, you don't even have to make a call. Like, it'll be nice to get a call, but it's okay. You can just send it to us, and it'll be part of the normal workflow. So that's something that we are trying to kind of come up with a standard, so we can just help people there. So that's been something we've been working on.
Cool. Yeah, when it comes to redundancy, you can say the biggest problem here is more or less what you also know, but in a very different way, has been the whole shortage of components, right? During COVID there, and there we built tremendous stock, and we did all kind of things to fly in, and it was very it was costly. We were fairly lucky. We managed to actually navigate pretty well through it, but it was a lot of work. And of course, as a tree-shaped size company, we have mapped out the enterprise risks, as it's called, and we are working with 10 different enterprise risks on a systematic. This also, I actually think we took it out now, but if the fire hits the factory, what do we do, right? If a certain amount of components are in shortage, which have very long lead times, what do we do? So we work with around 10, systematic enterprise risks, and have plans reviewed even by the board for these.
Awesome.
Yeah, so do we.
Our next topic is going to be on scaling. So I'm actually going to, I said I would leave the best for last for you to talk about it and scaling what we're going to do. Actually, he asked to be last. Just what ended up happening.
Is there time? Sorry, I just.
Plenty of time. I should have. You know that. So, what are the factors of scaling? What do you consider when you're doing scale up? KPIs, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
There's a leading question for you.
So there we go. So we have scaled. I know I talk a lot about how we've reinvented our business, but I think sometimes I take a step back, and in 2008, 95% of our sales, revenue, profit, everything came from the sale of precious dental alloys. But we also had about 220 employees. Very profitable at that time. I want to give my parents full credit. They did a lot with 220 employees. But as we've diversified, we've actually added about 500 additional employees. So today we have about over 750 global employees. And I think a major learning was scaling. So I think I'm going to take a page out of Chris's page, I think, or out of your statement is, I think I've learned a lot about scaling because of all the things I did wrong. So what I did is I asked ChatGPT. I'm just kidding. Okay. As a very smart global CEO of 22, I'm just kidding. But I put from Harvard, right? Yeah. So I put 5 things that I kind of wrote down notes. And I think everyone thinks when they think of scaling, they think of more equipment, more machines, more people, more space. I kind of thought of it slightly differently. And I'm going to give 5 things that I think are critical to anyone scaling their business. Number 1, culture. I think everyone wants to scale and doesn't focus on culture. That is your mission, your values, who you are. Because if you're going from 10 employees to 20 employees and you're not clear what your culture is, you're going to spend 2 years trying to fix that culture as new people come in. So I think for us, first and foremost, we talk about culture, and all culture is, I want to remind us, is what you want it to be. There is no right or wrong culture. You just have to have a culture and be steadfast to it.
Yeah.
And then you will attract people who want to be in that culture. There's no right or wrong, but define it, and that should be your number one priority in everything you want to do. You cannot scale the business. We listened to Jim Glidewell talk today. Rudy's over here, like, he has a culture. Like, you knew exactly what you were getting, and that was exactly who he was, and he never varied from that. And he grew that company to 5,300 employees. The second goal, I think, or the second thing to do, is to have a goal, and as I mentioned, continuously reiterate what that goal is. And I'm going to give you a hint that I just learned recently. It's okay to change your goal. I spent well, what happens if I have to change the goal? And I spent all this time trying to get the perfect goal. The world's going to change. Yeah. Business is going to change. Get a goal, charge towards it. If you have to change it, hey guys, great news. We have a new goal. We're going in this direction. Everyone will go. But when you don't have a clear goal and you're not continuously reiterating it, people don't know where you're going. And I'll be honest, sometimes I didn't know where I was going. So number one, culture. Number two, have a goal, reiterate it. Number three for me is be cautious. Okay? I think we all should be taking risks. We should all be pushing the envelope. It's okay to get things wrong. If you're not getting things wrong, you're not trying, right? So you have to get things wrong. But don't put yourself so far out there that a mistake can cost you something you can't recover from. So we've had a lot of things in our business that have worked very well. I've had a lot of things that haven't worked. I'm not going to spend time here sharing it. If Julie was here, she would be able to share all of them with you. She has a list that she keeps. But almost the joke is fail fast, move on. Okay? But don't put yourself, I have seen companies sometimes who put so much onto something, it doesn't work, which is okay, things are not going to work, but now they can't quite recover from it. So that's individual for each company, what risk appetite you have. But I think take risks, but not something that's going to push you over. Number four, and we spoke about it here, is IT. So we talk about AI, we talk about software. I encourage every single business owner here, whether you have 5 people or whether you have 400 people, your next key hire should be a IT, software, AI, technical, whatever you want to call it, someone to work to get your computers to work together. Very simply, it used to be the future of dentistry is software. I've got news for all of us. The future of everything is software. The future of business is software. So hiring someone, I think Runa was perfect. Hey, tell your vendors to implement AI. But if you had someone internally who could help you identify the things that you want to share, everyone's going to win. So when we work with customers who have IT specialists, things work super fast. Yep. Like I'm just sharing, like we can work very well together. And the fifth thing that I think is what I'm looking at as I grow, and I really encourage all of you, and Runa shared this, is focus on growth that comes from opportunity, not from fear. Okay? I think all of us, me included, we get a bad month, we get a bad thing, someone comes up with a new technology, there's a new something, and you're like, I need to do something. My advice, take a deep breath and look at all the things you're doing well, okay? And that'll calm you down a little bit. And then look at that threat as an opportunity. Because when we have grown from fear, we make mistakes. When we are growing because we see an opportunity to help our labs be more successful, to help us grow, to help our partners grow, we are far more successful in that change and adaptation. So I think growing from a place of opportunity rather than a place of fear is super, super important. So I think scaling is not about more people, it's not about more space, it's not about more equipment, it's really about profitable growth. And I think shifting that and focusing on these 5 key points for me is what I'm looking at as we grow. We may not add people, right? But we certainly want to add sales, and we certainly want to continue to grow and continue to grow into a great company, right? So, which one?
From opportunity, not fear.
If you like it, I'll take it.
It'll be up there next year. Maybe we'll do a slideshow and have you now.
Oh yeah, I'll be on that. No, I think it really resonates with me, and I think it should resonate. You know, I was sharing with Julie, and I were talking. Julie's done a whole bunch of lectures, been amazing, and we believe in the labs. So if you are hearing anyone who's like, oh, the labs are going out of business, just come and talk to me. Talk to me for 5 minutes, and I'll tell you our entire company, everything we do is based upon your success. Okay? So we have no contingency plan. Okay? So the more you guys are looking at doing things out of fear, I'm like, there is no fear. Now, it's hard work. It's not easy. Some are going to do better than others. But there's opportunities there for all of us to be incredibly successful with AI, with everything we're doing, and I am super optimistic. So when I hear like fear, I'm like, yeah, cool. Identify it, talk about it, but let's look at the opportunities.
Jim? Either one?
What's that? Yeah, I mean, scaling, it's exciting, right? People can get lost in it, though. Like, you start having big year over year, so now you almost feel pressured to keep up with that. I think that was one of our failures is, you know, we were doing acquisitions, having success. At the time, we weren't overly sharing our vision, so it was like you'd come in and be like, hey, guys, this is really exciting. We just bought a lab. They have 40 people, and everyone in the room's face went down, right? We were the only ones excited because we didn't share. We weren't prepared for the scaling. So that's something we really focus on now is making sure we're prepared, making sure we're sharing our vision. Like this year, our team knows, hey, our goal is to have one new acquisition and we're doing one startup lab. So everybody's on the same page. The HR team, the accounting team, the clinical teams, everyone now has the goal. Everyone now is building their goals to support that big goal. So they're saying, hey, I might need another person here. I might need another person here in APAR to be able to support all of this coming in. Where before we just did them, we shared it, and then everybody was swamped, and it probably hurt with turnover, it hurt with the overall culture. So it's really cool now with sharing our vision, giving them the time to prepare and not surprising them with things. Seeing them really look at our acquisitions, that's going to bring more responsibility and work into our headquarters as a positive thing. Now they look at it as, wow, this might be a chance for me to have growth opportunity. Hey, we have to add somebody for APAR. Maybe this is instead of me doing APAR, I can bump up to here, and this person can report into me. Like, as soon as we announce this stuff, the right people and the people you want to invest to will find you in the lab and say, hey, if this happens, I would love the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. And those people that ask you that are the right people to invest in. So I think, I mean, on scaling, mine is just making sure it's shared and making sure you're giving the support teams the ability to plan and do it instead of just saying surprise. I did it once. I did 2 surprises in less than 14 days with 120 new employees.
Surprise.
My brother and I were super excited, and nobody else was. And in all honesty, it was probably our worst. They're really good. It was our hardest acquisitions to get to the ODL way, because that's kind of how we try to get them, just because it was chaos, because we didn't have a plan. And next thing you know, they're on board, and it's like, well, when are they getting on our healthcare? When are they doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. And it made us look bad, right? And now we have a design plan. We go in and people are like, wow, this is very systematically. This is so much better than what we ever had. You're sharing this, you're sharing that. And those companies feel that way now, but it took 2 years, a lot of turnover, and it was probably because of the way we handled, preparing for that.
I think kind of going back to what I said earlier, having a framework, the culture is the most important thing, right? You can't do it on your own, right? You can go and write a check for a new location or a new organization, roll them in, but you got to have people on your team connected to why you're doing that and what ultimately you're trying to accomplish. And so the connection with the vision and having the right culture is what will allow you to be able to scale your business. Without it, it is very, very challenging. There's a lot of stop and go and a lot of false starts. So,
You skilled
course.
a lot.
Yeah, so we
You gotta tell them you were the third and fourth.
yeah. So maybe I already said it, but we obviously scaled from me as the first employee together with the two founders to 2,200 people. So we have been doing quite a lot of scaling, I would say. And on top of the points, I would say also when we survey, I actually think training is super important. And that's what we see when people are unsatisfied or getting unsatisfied or not performing, it's often because we really don't take good care of the onboarding and the training. And I think that applies even if you're not just scaling but hiring new employee. Then that is, you need to be, really sharp on the onboarding, the training, and also what you want to achieve with that person. And it honestly makes you more successful, but it also makes the employee tremendously more happy. So I think that is really a big part of it. And then of course, there is nothing more important than hiring the best possible people, right? I mean, it doesn't come more important than people. It is, we are all in the people business, but we rely on our employees. So hiring the right people and never take a shortcut there. If you have a bad stomach feeling, don't hire people or even just a feel on it. So really putting priority also on getting talent in and then get them in a good way. I think that's on top of what has been said, what we have seen going there.
Awesome, thank you guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put it out to the audience. We're going to do a little Q&A. Maybe we have some questions you have for anybody or for all of them. Any questions? We'll have a microphone that you can ask anything.
Who wants more wine?
Who wants more?
That'll get everyone interested.
If you ask a question, you get a glass of wine.
Yeah, ask a question, get some wine.
It goes back to the beginning with AI and hiring new employees. How do you see hands-on technicians competing with AI? As AI just keeps, I think the learning curve for AI is like thousands of times quicker than a human. So how do you see that competing in the lab?
I think what will happen is, what we already have seen happening, right, is that the simpler design task we got getting more and more AI. You can see today, you can go down and see our booth that, for instance, single crowns and models can be done very much with AI today. But that just means that you're going to move to more advanced indications. And I think dentures is just dramatically harder to do a full implant bridge, right, than a single crown. And yes, the proposal is getting better, but at the same time, so you still need people to adjust and modify it. And also, it will take time. And then there's just a global shortage of employees. I mean, of technicians. So I think there's never going to be a problem for a good technician to get jobs. But of course, there will be more automation coming. But that's happening across the board, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not. There will, of course, it will go forward, but it's going to be progressively, like it's also been progressively improving over the last 10 years, right?
By leaps and bounds, like.
Sorry.
The technology in the last 20 years has just gone through the roof.
No, exactly. And that's not going to stop. And AI is going to be, of course, yet another stepping block there, right?
And
I think put it a little bit closer so people can hear it.
To have the lab in most states, I think pretty much all states now, you have to have the CDT. And, is there any regulations for AI in the plans? Because the doctor can just send it wherever and have AI do it and get it back.
But again, I'm not so. I remain very optimistic on behalf of labs, right? And why do I do that? It is because, and I'm actually more optimistic than I was 3 years ago. And why is that? Because when I look at the intraoral scans we are doing, right, and our customers doing it, intraoral scans, which is a prerequisite, no one is going to print or mill anything if you don't have an intraoral scanner. Still 70% of all cases are from trios, and we talk about 90 million cases last year. Okay. Is going to, that's sent to, 60% goes to a lab, 10% goes to clear aligner manufacturers. That's been stable for years. And we see chairside milling being flat, not growing at all. And why is that? That's because most people want to treat patients. And you also see the DSOs are not, no DSO in the world is implementing chairside milling. And why is that? Okay. That's because who are the most rational players in the industry across the board? That's the DSOs. They can calculate, right? They can calculate hours. And why are they doing? They can see they can earn much more money on treating more patients than becoming lab technicians. So that's why you see milling, and at the same time, you guys have been seeing crown prices going down. I mean, the digitalization have meant that you can get a full zirconia crown for less than 100. So the whole business case about doing chairside has eroded, right? Then I have to say there's a little bit of question mark on printing, AI and 3D print. I just don't see still technicians, so people, the dentists want to do that and scale. Yes, there'll be the crazy guys you see on social media designing everything themselves, but this is so many people, right? Of the total market. So I'm not, that part I'm not too concerned about for you. Milling has failed. It's basically not really taking off. We will see bigger clinics having in-house technicians, and I totally believe in that, by the way. Yeah. I believe people having in-house technicians, if you are 10, 15 chair, you should have in-house technicians, at least for some of the work potentially, right? Mm-hmm. I'm quite optimistic on the rest, and we don't see the average dentist really doing it. And we don't see, certainly not triage users doing it. But there's a question mark on printing, but at the end of the day, the value proposition is the same, right? Right. It's a little bit cheaper to buy a printer compared to a mill. There's no drills, but material cost is very insignificant difference if you look at zirconia and 3D printing materials. So I remain optimistic, honestly, on behalf of labs. So
thank you so much.
And I'm not saying it to make you happy. I'm saying it because I mean it.
One of the biggest struggles is getting the correct implant information from your doctors. There are so many different scan bodies, so many different implant systems. It's all critical in terms of making the correct product. How do you control that information coming in so that you're not stopping the work, waiting for recalls with the dentist to, verify what they have sent in?
I'll just say from our perspective, we have a team lead in implants, and all the cases that come in go through an initial QC for that reason. So if there are questions, they're handled on the very front end. We often will call doctors to get clarification because mistakes on implant cases are very, very expensive, and they take a long time. A lot of times if you're not milling stuff in-house, you mill it and it ends up taking a week and a half in turnaround time, then you have to remake it. It's a lot of wasted time and energy. So.
But is that done before the case is logged in? In other words, how do you...
Can you give back?
Yeah. How do you input the case into your system if you don't have the correct information from the beginning?
We put it as a case consult. Okay. So the case is logged in so that we have a record of the case being in the lab. It's entered as a case consult, and it goes to the implant department for a QC, an incoming QC. So then once there's clarification on that, all the detailed product information goes into the case, and it goes onto the floor for production.
Have you had any success with limiting the type of electronic prescriptions that doctors are sending in to make sure that before that gets completed by you? I mean, what percentage, in terms of you large laboratories, what percentage are you receiving electronic prescriptions through the dental platforms that are available to the dentists?
So we're 42% digital coming in.
But isn't that mainly intraoral scans?
Yeah, intraoral scans. Yes.
So not much coming on separate other digital channels, is it? Like
no.
DDX or something like that?
No. We get very little DDX. I mean, it's either analog or...
So you don't. So there's not a lot coming in through like DDX then? No.
Not less than 1% of ours comes through a system like that. It's either coming with a traditional impression or iOS. We do the same. We just enter. Ours are all usually picked up and by our drivers. Our night crew will open it. They enter it. If it's an implant case, they just put to be determined. It goes into the implant department. I have a non-technical, somebody that's never touched implants, plans out all of our implant cases. She just worked alongside our implant manager for about a year as she was like his administrator. Now she can plan pretty much anything, singles, unless it gets crazy. So she plans it. She'll make the calls to the office, handle all that. We do have a decent sized inventory. We use Zimbus just to keep it organized. Everything then goes right on the case. We're not ordering a bunch, so if something goes out, we maybe lose out on 1 or 2 units, not much like that, and she controls all of that as well. So she really just goes to Mike when needed for more of a complex case. So again, it's utilizing people that aren't technical to do technical jobs. It's actually easier to train a non-technical person to become a little bit technical on the admin side than it is to train some of the good technicians how to be good on the administrative side.
Correct.
How do you adapt scaling to a small to medium-sized business, not as big as you guys, size?
Yeah, I mean, we all lived through that though, right? And we still have labs that are 15 people, and I'm like, how do I go from 15 to 30? And it's really the same process as you scale a large company. It's just maybe at a little bit of a different pace, but on a percentage basis, that scale's still the same. So I think a lot of it's still, again, having goals, having a plan on how you're going to achieve that goal, and sharing your vision and your goals with your team and getting them to work towards that goal. I mean, I see so many labs, even labs we acquired, and they're like, yeah, we just really want to scale. And I'm like, so what, their trend has been a 3% growth every year. That's their fee schedule increase. And it's like, so what was your goal for last year? And they're like, I don't know, we usually do 3%. So, okay, you didn't have a goal. How are you going to get beyond your fee scheduling? Well, we do CE events. When was your last one? 6 months ago. My company, this quarter, we have 36 CE events. So we're going to touch a lot of doctors. We're going to follow up a lot of doctors. Last year, we brought on 900 new customers. We have 1 sales rep. So it's all through CE. It's through education. It's through management people, our clinical directors, really communicating, bringing full arch. We have 8 full-time people going out, doing conversions, doing chairside support. They're better than a sales rep. In most cases, they build strong relationships. So it's not always like sales. You got to be big. It's just, honestly, you just got to push. You got to be willing to be gone 2-3 nights a week when you're trying to scale. I mean, if you're not willing to do that, or at least have somebody on your team willing to do that. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, in our industry, it's who out hustles the other people.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say, I think it all starts with a plan, right? You've got to sit down and think through what you want to accomplish and jot down those steps on how you intend on doing that. And without that, I think that becomes a real struggle day to day, because we're all busy doing what we do every day and being in the weeds. So part of the EOS, and I don't want to sound like I'm, over the top with EOS, but it's been a great thing for us. And part of what it forced us to do was sit down and tackle all those things. Where do we want to be? And then it becomes a platform in which we can communicate that and revisit it. So I keep what we call the vision traction organizer in a little portfolio. I write my journaling and my to-do list every morning, and I review that. And it keeps me on task. It always keeps all of those things front of mind. So I think that's important, whether it's 2 or 200 or 2,000, right?
We run on EOS too, so I'll vouch. It's a great program. But I'd also vouch all of you to challenge yourselves if you do want to scale. Set a double-digit sales growth this year. Make a plan, and I guarantee you'll do better than you did last year. And 2, my sales goes 12% this year. If for some reason I happen to fall a little bit short, I'm still going to grow 10%. A lot of people, they set their goal at 5%. And if they're not doing anything and they have a bad year, they're probably going to be at 0 or negative. And we know our expenses are going up, so you're actually going to have your business in a worse situation than it was the prior year. And really, it's because we didn't have a goal and we didn't have a plan on how to get there. And you don't have to spend hours and hours on this. It's just set goals, share, bring in the people who can contribute to that, which is your whole company. And I think you'll be amazed at what can happen, and continue to share how you're doing with your company.
Yeah, I always share, whether it's a 1-person, 2-person, 5-person, write down your goals. Even if they're just for you. I think sometimes people are like, well, it's just me, it's in my head. When you suddenly put it down on paper, something happens. It becomes a reality. It just becomes something that you really want to make happen. And for many years I did it. It was in my head, and I was going in this direction, that direction. And since I've started to actually plan it out, I tried to share, it's as impactful for me to read it every month as it is for everyone else. It's almost reminding myself, okay, this is why we're doing it, this is where we're going, just keep going. So I think just have that plan, put it down on paper. If there's 2 of you, then there's a plan for 2 of you. And I can almost guarantee you, you will hit that plan.
My dad always used to tell me, a goal that's not written down and shared is just a dream.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of truth behind that.
Absolutely.
Even in personal life, if you don't write your goal down, I'm always going to lose 20 pounds. It's not funny, I gained 10. But if you literally wrote that, if I took the time, wrote that goal down, build milestones, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times, I'm going to eat this, and I actually follow that, I would lose 20 pounds.
Yep.
I'm not committing to writing that goal down.
Sounds to me like you're admitting, right? Since he sucks, say beer makes me happy. That also makes me That's what I've been looking at the whole presentation over here.
Drinking wine. It was the play off the wine.
Like those. I do like that.
So basically, it's just a dream, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You didn't write it down.
Yeah, I'll never lose 20 pounds because I'm not going to write it down.
Maybe adding 2 things to this. I mean, be ambitious. Tree shape was never created to be number 2, right? So like have ambitious goals. If you set the bar higher, you also jump higher. And then especially when you're small, it's much more critical who you hire. I mean, if you have 5 people and you hire one that's bad, then 20% of your staff is bad, right? And honestly, when you get a 2,000, if you do a wrong hire, and it's 0.1%, or even less, that's a bad, right? So, but small teams, it becomes even more critical to hire the right people.
Awesome. Over here.
Second. We got one back there.
I'm just going to stand up. I like standing when I talk. So first of all, I just want to say you guys did a tremendous job, and thank you guys for breaking that down and helping us understand some important things as it becomes to business. And I just want to direct this question to you, Mr. Anton. I know that you harped on culture and establishing a culture within your business that's conducive to where you see yourself going as a business, correct? I really think that is important. You know, I've been a part of a couple of different systems and structures where you established a culture, but then you begin to see it change because there's this intermingling of different cultures, and now they're not all compatible with one another. So now you're finding that you have some challenges in your business and you don't know where it's coming from. And of course, you know, to just the dental industry as a whole, I believe that, of course, we see the physicalities of it, but there's also a mental component to it as well. And if we don't address that, I feel like that's where the majority of our challenges can come from. So I have maybe a 2-sided question per se. Now, of course, we see this introduction of AI technology. Now, since you talked about culture and you've established a culture within your business, how do you present that to your organization in a way that doesn't conjure up fear or concern, instead of just saying, hey, you know, we're having our quarterly meeting, hey, the way that we did things, we're not doing it anymore, okay? AI is taking over, this is our direction. How do you have a healthy conversation with your organization to where it doesn't spark up fear? And then the other side of that question is, if you can be transparent with this, what do you think your biggest fear would be? Of course, we all believe in innovation and we want to go in the direction of what's new and exciting, but at the same time, there is a hesitancy that keeps us from pulling the trigger so fast. But what would make you, I guess, pull the trigger in a way that you feel like wouldn't be detrimental to your business, if that makes sense to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. First of all, great question. Thank you for sharing.
You want him on your team.
Yeah, I want him. Yeah,
absolutely.
That was great energy.
It was.
So I'll start with the beginning part. I think culture, and I kind of say this a lot, that there's no right or wrong. Like, we have our culture, and so I came into my parents' business. They had their culture. Then I came in and I tried to change the culture. That was not easy, right? Then my wife joined the business, and she has her culture, and I have my culture. And we've actually just spent a lot of time saying what's important to us: honesty, integrity. So we have 6 core values that we share. Basically, any presentation I give, I start with the 6 core values. I was like, this is who we are, right? So honesty and integrity. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. We listen to our customer. We care about our customer. We build strong relationships, and we care about each other. We bring passion and energy, like we really care about what we're doing. We think we're doing great things. And a key one is family. So we are a family business, but we got a little big to be a family business. We had to put structure in place. So what we mean by that is we're a family spirit. And we actually define what that means. That means we care about each other. I care about your success. I care about our people's success. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to argue. We can even have a fight. And we go to our separate rooms, but we come back and we really care about each other. That is at the basis, I think, of who we are as a company. If you say you're going to do that, I'm tested all the time to live up to that. And I hope that when I get into those difficult situations, I do the right thing. Because I feel that is what defines culture. You can say everything you want, and when it comes to a difficult situation and you act a certain way, everyone in that organization sees how you acted, and that's your culture. Doesn't matter what you put on the wall, doesn't matter what you say, it's what you do, right? So I think if you are going to have a culture in your organization, it's not what you think people want. It's not what you think is the right. It's actually who you are. And there's no right or wrong, it's who you are. So I think we continue to drive that culture. So when we're not putting AI into our business, but my wife lectured on lean manufacturing today. We have brought lean into our organization. Huge fear, right? What do people think when they hear lean? Less jobs, right? I'm going to be out of a job. But that's not how we did it. We actually did it. We brought everyone in from level 1 employee, level 2, level 3, into the team to decide what was better. And sure enough, we grew. And they became more efficient. And we had some people left for various reasons, and we didn't hire to fill that position. But we have never in the history of our organization had a layoff. We've never laid off, right? Now people come and go, but we have completely leaned out. Julie shared, we've gone from like 82% yield to 96% yield. Like we've done all these great things, but we've repurposed people in different areas. We've had different growth. That goes back to the culture. Right? So I think when we introduce something, people believe in our culture. They believe in who we are. And I'm sure there is some fear. But the more we do it and the more they see, hey, there's more opportunity, they're growing. We've taken someone who was a level 1 before this lean progress, is now a manager in that department because they were the ones who were like, oh, I think we should do this. And like all these ideas came up. Suddenly they're the lead, they're the supervisor, they're the manager. So I think we had 39 promotions or 40 somewhat promotions last year, internal. So I think if you can really be steadfast on that culture, and it's not easy. I'm sitting here saying it's like, oh, I do it well. I mess up all the time. I want everyone to know. And I've been messing up for the last 20 years, and I'm going to continue to mess up. Yeah. But that's why it's so front of mind for me, because I know it's hard, okay? Then my last fear. What is my biggest fear every day? Is that I'm not able to execute. That is my fear, if I'm being very vulnerable. I think we have a great business. I think we have great people. Many of them are here. I hope you get a chance to meet them outside. And I think we have great products and great customers. But we have to execute. And we have to deliver on what we say we're going to do. So for me, my biggest fear is, am I sitting here committing to you? Committing to all of you that I'm going to be here to support you, and what happens if I can't fulfill that? So that's probably my biggest fear now. It's probably good for you guys that that's my biggest fear, because I'm doing everything I can to ensure that doesn't happen. But I think we're in a great space. I think we have great opportunities in front of us, but it's not easy. And we have to execute. I know you have some other questions, but we can talk a bit later, but I feel like I've taken too much time. Sorry.
Great.
Hi, this is Amit from American Dental Design. We have a small lab of 35 employees. And, I'd just like to thank you all and just want to give you a, round of applause because you're sharing your great knowledge. Thank you very much. And as you guys discussed and, you shared some experience of training and culture is very important, and you explain culture more in detail. But I just want to know, if anyone of you can briefly tell us like how to implement, what are the sources, what you did from 2 employees till how you grew. What did you do in the training and the culture? How did you do it? What kind of sources you use? How and what did you do for that?
Go ahead. You just go ahead.
People have heard enough from me, I'm sure.
Okay, so I can speak a little bit on culture. So we have, I think it's actually important, and Anton's actually already been saying that we have been doing the same to writing down. So we actually wrote down our culture, right? And we've done that multiple times, and it does develop. I think that's also important that you are not changing it. But then we have a period for a few years here where we didn't have updated our culture, and obviously we have our values. So we have values also, and it got a little bit outdated, and that frustrated a lot of people. So I think it's about, getting it on paper. And it doesn't have to be frozen for the next 5-10 years, but it has to, it's a little bit about getting it down on paper and understanding what is your culture, how is it you want to be as a company, as people, and then also be a little bit ambitious on what you want to achieve, right?
I'll say, for me, this journey that I've been on, this year in November, I'll celebrate 30 years in the industry. And I've learned a tremendous amount from some incredible people, including many of these guys on the stage. But I think one of the misconceptions that I had was that there was a path to linear growth. Like this is the trajectory. And I think you may have a trend curve that looks like that, but it's ups and downs. And you learn from both. So taking away from the things that don't go so well and internalizing those and creating plans to eliminate the potential for those things and walking away with the positives to continue to build on. So, we kind of struggled through many different ups and downs. Recently, we started with a format with the OS, and that's our next level. That's our next phase. So we go from where we are to this next level. And we know that it won't be linear, but we're learning along the path, and having a plan is what it's all about, right? Creating the culture, getting people around the vision that you've created, and continuing to share that, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, much of the same. I think it's just sharing your vision. We do people analyzers. We have our 6 core values. Every time we review something, every 6 months we review our people and we walk them through each of our core values. We give them a plus if they're always doing it, a plus minus if they do it most of the time, but sometimes fall off with a bad decision, and then a minus if they really don't share that core value. And we have a grading scale. If you have too many of the minuses on there, you're just not a fit for our company. So we're hiring on that. Our hiring questions are directed at every question. It goes back to a core value. We promote on that, and that's what we let people go on as well. And I think that as a company, that's probably one of the better things we've done recently is not letting culture killers stay within the organization. And then also taking the culture superstars and really giving them a fast track to get into a leadership role, or a role that, their ability to share that culture will be more widespread within the organization. And I think when people see these people have wins, they see what we're looking for in our people. And honestly, everybody, ourselves included, all of us can think of that one employee that shouldn't be in our company, but maybe he or she are really good at building porcelain, and I couldn't live without them. And we have them still probably, but you'd be amazed when we've let them go. Like you get 4 emails and 2 high fives, which is actually embarrassing, right? Because that means we didn't do our job as a leader.
And I'll also share, I think, as you're starting the process, because I went through it, ups and downs, is I created a culture I wanted, maybe not a culture who I was. And I think many people sometimes make that I'm not gonna call it a mistake, but that, like, they say, this is what I want the culture to be, but then the first thing happens, and it could be accountability, right? So accountability is a tricky one, right? So, I care about my employees, but I hold them accountable, right? So, like, where's that balance? So our culture is we care about each other, but you didn't deliver this on time, so, okay, so people get confused. So I think one is, if you can really try and be honest, like who you are. I always use Elon Musk as an example. I don't agree with his culture, right? I'm just going to share, but it's super clear. He bought Twitter. He sent an email out. This is who we are. If you don't want to work 80 hours a week, leave. And people left. And the ones who stayed were like, okay, this is the culture. And he hired a whole bunch of, I mean, there's people who work at SpaceX who are like, this is awesome, right? I don't think that would fit me, but there's no right or wrong. But he is super steadfast in what it is. So I encourage you to try and be honest, but then when you approach a situation, and we all know those key situations, right? We're doing something and everyone's looking how we're doing it. Question, is that the culture you want? And if you do it, then make that your culture. That's just my advice.